Welcome to another webinar on behalf of Train Smart Australia. And again, I thank you very much for the privilege of having me here. David Bunney is my name. I'm the author of Success Leaves a Trail. Today, we're going to have a light-hearted look at a very serious matter that pretty much affects us all. How do you get work-life balance correct? Now, you might think that this is really hard to actually achieve, but I can promise you one thing today. If you've got an open mind, I can show you some simple techniques that you can apply that's going to achieve what it is that you want out of life. Got a copy of my book yet? Why not? It's now a bestseller on Amazon. A lot of the information on this webinar is actually included in the book. It'll change your life. So if you haven't got a copy yet, find out how to get one. We're going to have some fun today because in this webinar you're going to learn a lot of new information. First of all, what a balanced lifestyle actually means to you. We're going to have a look at some methods to simplify your life, reduce some of that stress. How to apply small changes and produce amazing results. Understanding your motivation and what is actually important to you. And best of all out of this, just simply how to have more fun. So to get started, we better have a look at what we're actually trying to create, and that is a lifestyle for ourselves. And the definition actually talks about work and leisure behaviour patterns contributing to that lifestyle. And then it goes on to say, well, it's a composite of motivations and needs and wants and can be influenced by certain factors. You know what? At the end of the day, we're just trying to create a better lifestyle for ourselves. That's all. When I mention choices, I know what you're thinking. What? Do we actually have a choice? Try not going to work one morning and see what that does for you. Whether that puts food on the table. Or if you're studying, have a look at the diagram there. Do you want good grades and enough sleep? Or enough sleep and a social life? Or a social life? You know, we make choices every single day. Some are good, some are not so good. But I guess really it depends on what type of lifestyle are we actually trying to create in the first place. If you had some clarity on that, then perhaps that might contribute to making better choices each day. Of course, a good place to start is simply asking the question, what's important to you? What are the things that really matter in your life? You see, by knowing what's important to you is going to help you with your discipline and your commitment. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But it's actually the foundation of your whole lifestyle. What is important to you? What are you actually trying to achieve? For me, my lifestyle is fairly simple. My choices are just simply have fun and help more people. I guess that's why I like cruising so much. You know, you go on a cruise and every single day is just a series of choices on how you're going to spend the day and have fun. I love it. Of course, the coolest thing of all is when you can actually have fun and help other people at the same time. I encourage anyone to get involved in a passion or a hobby that actually involves both, having fun, helping more people. I know it sounds really simple, but it's fantastic. This webinar is not about me or my choices that I make. It's actually about you and your commitment to actually wanting to make a difference with your work-life balance. You see, you're going to need commitment to make any changes. So let's have a look at a couple of ways you can do this. You probably use NTS. Have you heard of that before? Note to self. It might be on a little yellow sticker pad, and it might be on a note to self. Don't forget the milk, or don't forget the kids from school. These are good reminders, but it doesn't motivate you to take action, to do anything. What I like to tell people to use is CTS, commitment to self. And let me explain how this works. It's really easy. You can still use the yellow sticker pad, but you put it somewhere around your workstation or something that's going to remind you through the day that you made a commitment to yourself. It might be simple things like I commit that I'm going to get better at spelling, or I'm going to improve my grammar, or I'm going to read more books. It doesn't matter what it is, so long as you remind yourself that you're going to get better at something. And then you promise that no matter how busy you are, you'll do it. You'll take little tiny chunks out of a day and you will look up the spelling of that word, or you'll do something that you said you would. It's a commitment to self, like a promise. Don't break a promise. Okay, so now we're going to move on and we're going to learn about change. I know what happened then. As soon as I mentioned the word change, you got scared. That's fairly natural. I get that. But let me ask you a question. Is getting more balance in your life important to you? Because if it is, I'm sorry, you can't get away from the fact you'll need to make some changes. But here's the good news. You're allowed to make them one at a time. And in fact, you can make just small changes. Simple things to your current routine that is not contributing to getting balance in your life. And we're going to show you where to find these areas and how to actually get started. Well, your best starting point is simply with your attitude. You know, in particular, your attitude towards wanting a better work-life balance in the first place. You know, how do you think about that? I love this image here of the challenge. You know, it starts off, I won't do it. Look at the little expressions on his face. You know, I can't do it. Well, maybe I want to do it. Okay, how do I do it? I'll try and do it. Hey, look at me, I can do it. I will do it. Yes, I did. You know, what changed in all of those steps? Yeah, you're right. Simply the attitude. That's all it was. It's a simple thing like attitude, and you can actually control it. You have control over that. So, all right, so let's move on and we'll take some action. Right, so now we're getting into the action side. So I hope you've got your notepad and pen to take some notes so you can come back to it later. Tip number 1, simplify your life. I know what you're thinking. Why haven't I done this before? You see, common sense is not always common practice. So I suggest you probably have never really sat down and looked at what areas you could actually simplify. Let's have a look at a few suggestions. Well, the first suggestion I recommend is have a look at the thing called remove the burden of ownership. Now, if this is unfamiliar with you, I'm sure you've at least experienced what it feels like. For example, you might be a real technology type of person, and you find that just consumes so much of your time. Updating new software or computers are breaking down. You know, it's just, have a look at it. I've got a friend of mine who owns a boat. He laughs and he said, it's just like standing at the end of the jetty and throwing $50 notes into the water. He hardly ever uses it. He said, I wish I could just get rid of it one day. I know of another person who bought a brand new caravan. Guess what? They've used it once in the last 12 months. Come on, do you really need all this ownership? Have a look at the things you can get rid of. All right, the point number 2, review your morning routine. They say that the first 90 minutes of your day is absolutely critical to how the rest of the day is going to play out. So have a look at what rituals and routines you're currently doing, and are they serving you? What changes could you make? Just have a quick look at it. Now, the third point is question your actions through the day. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a weekend or whether it's your day at work, but keep asking yourself, is what I'm doing now the best use of my time? Is it contributing to my work-life balance, or is it just simply frustrating me? Have a look at it and jot it down, and then you can go back later and maybe come up with ideas or suggestions how you could improve it. And the last point, number 4, improve your time management skills. Look, let's be honest, we've all got the same amount of time in every day. It's really just a matter of prioritizing what's more important to you. And there's heaps of study you can do. It's very, very easy. So have a look at your time management priorities and just systemize it a little bit better than you currently are. So they're just 4 areas, but don't stop there. Sit down, find a quiet time and make a list. Once you've got the list, you can then move on to finding other things and simple changes that you can make to improve things. Just before I do move on, I feel I need to elaborate a little bit more on the point I just mentioned about time management and taking control of some of your actions through the day. More specifically, about how you go about prioritizing and making better decisions. You see, if you change your priorities, then your decisions will be aligned with them. And of course, then if you throw in some good time management skills, then you'll make a big difference. But let me ask you a question. I know we're all very, very busy people, and you see them, but are you really busy in the right areas? You know, are you effective or are you just efficient? You know, the quote I see very often, you should not be prioritizing your plan, but planning your priorities. Oh, that is so powerful. So let's have a look at this. There's really three elements that make up this subject. Number one is priorities and deciding exactly what it is that's important to you. Number two is actually making the decisions, or more importantly, making a commitment that you are going to carry through the decisions. And of course, point three is time management. You see, I'd like you to do an exercise. I mentioned before about making a list, but I really encourage you to do that. You know, find a quiet place, and I want you to list your top three priorities in life. What are they exactly? What is really, really important to you? And then after you've listed those three things, do a CTS. I think I mentioned it before. Commitment to self. You know, what are you willing to commit to make some of these changes? You know, it might be watching a little bit less TV, or cutting yourself off from some of the news and things like that, or reading more books. It doesn't matter what it is, but you do need to understand the commitment that you're going to make to yourself and then follow through with it. Okay, so thanks very much for that. Now we can move on, and I can show you how we can go ahead and create a work-life balance. And now I've introduced you to the concept of making changes. Tip number two, make small changes. Get that word? Small. However, it's small changes in a number of areas of your life. And the diagram that I like to use is the wheel of life, because it looks at 8 of the main areas that people seem to struggle the most trying to balance between their work and their life. Now you might think this is a little bit difficult, but if you actually have a look at each area, you'll find that you only need to make a couple of changes in a few of the areas, and it's going to make a huge difference. So let's have a look at them. Okay, first up, career. Now, I don't suggest that you quit your job or your study, but then again, maybe a career change is exactly what you need. Have a look at this diagram. Basically, we work for 8 or 9 hours a day, we sleep for 7 or 8 hours a day, and then in the remaining time, we try and squeeze in as much as we possibly can to create a lifestyle. Come on, is that really working? Let's have a look at some of the things you can actually do. You know, could you, for example, work flexible hours? Approach your boss. Maybe you could do some work from home or part-time. Maybe you could just simply plan your time better. Have you ever been in the CBD of a capital city about 5 minutes past 5? Honestly, I see people running, I should say, for buses and trains and just to get home. And what for? To sit down in front of the TV or to relax? Even that rushing and stress, that's just one thing you can cut out straight away. Stop and think about what you're actually doing, and you'll find so many small things that you could do just in the career area. So that's my first challenge to you. So do you have your pen and paper ready? Make a list of all the small things that you could do that would help improve your work and life balance to do with your career. You might be amazed at how many items you actually end up listing. The next area is finance. And this is an area that causes a lot of stress. Because really, people look at finance, or should I say, the lack of, either real or perceived lack of finance, and this is the biggest contributor to our problem that we're discussing. You see, a lot of people think that they're motivated by money. Well, you know what? That's not entirely correct. It's usually their motivation comes from what they're spending their money on. Now, I understand paying your bills is a fairly good use of it. I get that. But let me ask you a couple of confronting questions. How much actually learning or study have you done on the topic of money management? Are you good at managing your own money? Because if you can't manage what you've got now, how do you hope to manage even more in the future? Questions like, do you only have one income stream? Is your job the only way that you earn money? How much advice have you asked from other people? I know these are fairly confronting questions. So let's look at some advice and wisdom from someone who really does know this matter really well. Warren Buffett is who I'm referring to, and for those who haven't heard that name before, I suggest you find out more about him. He is arguably the most successful investor of all time. And here's some of his pearls of wisdom. And the first one he talks about is creating more than one income stream for yourself. You see, if you rely on a job as your only source of income, you become very vulnerable. And so he suggests perhaps getting other investments or starting a job or even a second part-time job. Creating multiple streams of income creates a little bit of security in your life. I like to take it a little bit further and say, don't forget to get some on passive income as well as active income. Some of the other quotes here are simply, do not save what's left after you're spending, but get to spend what is left after you're saving. You know, get your mindset around the right way on investing. And there's several other pearls of wisdom that he often speaks about there. Now you might be asking yourself, how does health create stress between work and life balance? Well, let's have a look and we'll see. A healthy lifestyle creates your energy. And we all know that we should eat well, we should do more exercise, and we should look after our mental attitude and our wellness. It's just common sense, isn't it? Is it? Why isn't it common practice then? You already know what you're supposed to be doing, so why is it that we let these things go? You know, maybe it's just not important enough in your life at this point in time to make changes. Please, can I urge you, don't wait until you're forced to make changes. Do something about it now. You already know what to do. Get started. So are you taking notes? Have you got the pen and paper? Are you writing questions that you're going to challenge yourself with a little bit later? Because here's a subject that affects everyone. Family. You can't choose them. Sometimes you can't live with them. And sometimes you just simply can't live without them. But have a look at the image on the screen there. Don't have the mindset that it's work or family, or work versus family. It's actually work plus family. That's the balance we're trying to achieve. So to achieve balance in your family life, it's going to take some work. Because let's face it, just like personalities, every family is different. We all operate totally differently. And in fact, sometimes it might even think that your family is dysfunctional. Compared to what? Who are you comparing that to? Is there such a thing as a normal family? I doubt it. And like the image there, put the fun back in dysfunctional. Look, family life matters. Just learn to appreciate and respect each other a little bit more. So what changes could you make to improve that area of your life? Because it is that important. If you need a good reason to get more balance in your life, then make it family. They're there through the bad times, and you share the good times as well. Nothing is more emotional than family. That will give you the energy and the purpose to make changes. Do you want to improve your relationship? Here's a simple tip. Give your partner some more reasons why your relationship should actually improve. And I don't mean hope. That can't be just the only reason. Now, I've had the privilege of being married to the same wonderful lady for 36 years now. It's okay. Don't feel sorry for me. It's actually getting better every year. The point I make is simply make more effort. And when you do finally get home after working a hard day, how present are you with your partner? Do you give each other actual attention like they deserve? Or are you still thinking about work? Or worse, did you bring the work home with you? Are there any surprises left? I'm sure there's a lot of small changes that can be made in this area of your life. What about self-development? What new things have you learned in the last 12 months? What have you got planned for the next 12 months? That's why I like birthdays so much. You can use that as a benchmark point in time to look backwards and also to plan forwards. You know, your mental well-being is as important as your physical. So please don't overlook this part of your life. It contributes a lot to the overall work-life balance. So read more books. Go and look at what courses you can do in the next 12 months or what new learning you can take on board that's going to help you. We all need a social life, some more than others. So how well do you treat your friends? Or more importantly, how many new ones have you made in the last 12 months? Of course, I'm referring to real friends and real face-to-face interactions. I know all the technology's out there. Please don't let that get in your way. Use it to your advantage, of course, but don't forget to pick up a phone and just talk to somebody sometimes. You know, a lot of people just lose the art of conversation. Enjoy your social life, enjoy your friends, do more of it. Your home environment is important because this is an area that has a direct influence on the way that you feel. And, by the way, did I mention, it's one of the easiest areas that you can make changes. Now, as you know, homes come in all shapes and sizes and locations. But the one thing in common is how we actually use them. The home environment should make you feel good. And if there's inspiration in there, then that's even better. So have a good look around. What changes could you make to either create more inspiration or to make it just feel a little bit more natural for you? And even if it's down to relaxation, you might designate a particular area of your house for relaxation and maybe another area as a home office. But whatever it is, make it suit your needs. So there we have it. We've discussed 8 potential areas where you can make small changes that's going to have a profound difference to your work-life balance. Of course, the real question now is how many of those changes that you've identified will you actually commit to? Now, this next section is going to help you deliver on those commitments. So I congratulate you for staying with me to this point in the presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you. As a bonus gift, I'm going to give you a tip that is so powerful, it's going to change your life. This is used by highly successful people all over the world, and it's the one thing that has made such a profound difference to my personal life. What is it? Simply learning the ability to say no with manners more often. It's the one thing that people struggle with for some particular reason. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a formula so that you can actually practice it and get very good at it. It will guaranteed help you develop a better work-life balance. But before we get into it, I'm going to share a personal story on how this has actually helped me. On page 38 of my book, Success Leaves a Trail, I share a story of a time in my life when I knew I certainly did not have a work-life balance. You see, at the time I was involved in the oil and gas industry and I worked on construction projects in some very remote locations around the world. But for this presentation, I'll cut the long story short. Simply, I'd had enough and I knew it. I was burning out fast and I was heading for a crash. I also knew that I had to find a way to say no, especially to the next project. And that was a little bit difficult because I didn't even know what else I actually wanted to do with my life. I just knew all the things I didn't want to do anymore. In fact, I made a list of them. I choose not to anymore. It was time for me to learn to say no. To be honest, it wasn't easy for me to learn to say no. In fact, a lot of other people just did not understand my thinking at all. But I knew I had to. Perhaps you can relate to this. You know, are there times when you should be saying no? Is that causing some imbalance in your life? I certainly knew it was in mine at the time. Anyway, I did not get on that 5 a.m. flight to my next project. Instead, there I was at the beach with my list. And I watched my list gently just float out and disappear forever. No manners were required. So here's the formula. It's a simple 3-step process. And guess what? It starts with the word no. Right? Don't get that confused. I don't know why people have so much trouble, but they do, and they struggle. They try and create all these excuses first, and then they try and slide into the word no. And of course, what they end up doing, it just confuses everybody. It doesn't sound very assertive or anything. So please get it right and start the formula with a simple no. Now also ask, don't stop there, because if you do just stop there, it sounds rude and it sounds abrupt, and we don't want to, we don't want to be like that. So the second part of it is word because. Now nobody really likes to hear the word no, but if you add the truth, people tend to accept it a lot better. So you say no because, and that's where you add the truth. Now moving on to the last section is options. And this is where you can actually become very helpful, and you can bring the manners into it. So you can offer other solutions or alternatives that might actually help out. So the formula is no, because, and you add a little bit of truth, options, and that's where you're offering alternatives and solutions. Look, please, just practice it. You know you should be saying this even more often than you do. And it's some of the major causes why we don't have a work-life balance, because we keep saying yes to everything and then we become so overloaded that we can't deliver on what we promised. So learn to say no, because, options, practice it. You know, some examples might be, no boss, I'm sorry, I really can't stay back tonight because my family need my time just as much as you do. However, perhaps I could come in early tomorrow morning and help you out, or maybe ask somebody else. You know, there's a lot of different scenarios you can use it, but you need to practice it to get good at it. So that's the formula. No, because, options, practice it more often, and it'll help you a lot. So there we have it, the information to achieve the work-life balance. Now the rest is up to you. Get started by knowing what a balanced lifestyle actually means to you and identifying the things that are important, because they're the things that are going to give you the motivation and the energy to make some changes. Have a look at simplifying your life. What is it exactly that's overcomplicating things? And how can you have more fun? And we spoke about making some small changes in a few of the areas of your life. Look, it'll only take a couple of changes and it'll make a huge difference. And of course, the last thing is to learn to say no with manners more often. You know you should be doing that. Look, it's been a real privilege sharing with you today. I thank you so much. I hope I have inspired, educated, and encouraged you to go out and create a better work-life balance and improve your lifestyle. Thanks very much. And of course, if you want to connect with me and get some more resources, you can go to my website, the www.davidbunney.com, or find out more about my book at successleavesatrail.com. A special thank you to TrainSmart Australia for having me here today. What a privilege. And I look forward to sharing more with you in the future.